Catherine Wells stood on the viewing deck of Moon Base 1. She wore an expensive blue suit that showed everyone she was rich. Her computer company had made her a lot of money. The big glass windows showed Earth looking like a blue ball in the black sky. Even though she had seen this view many times, it still made her feel something special. "Mom! Mom! Look at that boy!" Her 8-year-old son, Dylan, pulled at her sleeve. He pointed with excitement at a group of workers across the large room. Catherine looked without much interest. "Yes, honey, there are many people here." "No, Mom, that boy, that's my brother," Dylan said louder, still pointing. Catherine looked again, this time paying more attention. Among the workers was a teenage boy about 15 years old. He wore the gray work clothes of the Moon Base cleaning crew. His dark hair was cut short, which was normal for people working in the lower parts of the base where water was limited. But it was his face that made Catherine stop and stare. The boy had her eyes. The special green Wells family eyes that Dylan also had. Eyes she had last seen on another face almost 16 years ago. "That can't be," she whispered. But she felt like the floor was moving under her as old memories came back. The boy looked up, maybe feeling their stares, and for a short moment, they looked at each other across the busy room. Something like knowing passed across his face before he quickly looked away and went through a worker's door. Catherine couldn't move. Her mind was racing. It wasn't possible. Her first son had died during the Mars base accident 16 years ago. The accident that had killed her husband and thousands of other people when the air systems broke down completely. She had been told no one lived through it in that part of the base, but those eyes. "Mom, why did he go away? Can we go talk to him?" Dylan asked, pulling at her sleeve again. Catherine's helper, Paul, came closer. "Ms. Wells, are you okay? You look very upset." "I think I might have seen someone I thought was dead," Catherine said very quietly. "I need to find that boy." Paul looked worried. "What boy?" "Ms. Wells, you have a meeting in 10 minutes with the Space Council members." "Cancel it," Catherine said, her voice now strong and sure. "Cancel everything for today." Paul's eyes got big. "Cancel the Space Council? But they've come from Earth just to—" "I don't care if they came from the edge of the galaxy." Catherine cut him off. "Something more important has come up. That boy. I need to know who he is." Dylan was watching his mother with big eyes. "Mom, are you okay? You look funny." Catherine bent down to her son's level. "Dylan, honey, I'm fine, but I need to ask you something very important. Why did you say that boy was your brother?" Dylan shrugged. "Because he looks like the picture you have by your bed, the one you said was my brother who went to heaven. He has the same eyes as us." Catherine felt her heart beat faster. For years she had kept a picture of her first son Joseph by her bed. She had never really explained to Dylan about his older brother who had gone to heaven when he was just a baby. She had found it too painful to talk about much. "You're very smart, Dylan," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Now we need to find out if you're right." She stood up and turned to Paul. "I need you to get me the work records for all the maintenance staff. I want to know who that boy is, where he came from, and how long he's been here." Paul nodded, though he still looked confused. "Right away, Ms. Wells, and the Space Council?" Tell them a family matter has come up. They can reschedule or meet with my vice president." As Paul hurried away to make the arrangements, Catherine took Dylan's hand and walked toward the service door where the boy had disappeared. She didn't care about the rules against visitors in the workers' areas. If there was even a small chance that boy was her son, nothing would stop her from finding out. "Are we going on an adventure, Mom?" Dylan asked, excited by the change in routine. "Yes, honey," Catherine said, her mind filled with both hope and fear. "We're going to solve a mystery." They reached the service door, which had a sign that read, "Authorized personnel only." Catherine pressed her hand against the scanner. As the owner of the company that had built half the moon base, her handprint opened almost every door. The door slid open, showing a plain hallway with pipes running along the ceiling. It was very different from the nice parts of the base where Catherine usually went. Come on, Dylan, she said, stepping through. Let's go find out if miracles can happen. As they walked down the hallway, Catherine's mind raced with questions. How could her son have survived the Mars accident? Why had she been told he was dead? Who would lie about such a thing, and why? And most importantly, if that boy really was Joseph, how would he feel about the mother who had believed he was dead for 16 years? She didn't have the answers yet, but Catherine Wells was used to getting what she wanted. And right now, she wanted the truth. Catherine and Dylan walked down the plain hallway of the moon base. The air smelled different here, more like machines and less like the clean, fresh air of the upper levels. They passed several workers who stared at them with surprise. Everyone knew Catherine Wells, the rich woman who owned the biggest computer company in the solar system. Seeing her in the workers' area was like seeing a movie star in your kitchen. "Do you know where we're going, Mom?" Dylan asked, looking around with big eyes at the pipes and wires on the walls. "Not exactly," Catherine admitted, "but we'll find him." A woman in a gray work suit came around the corner carrying a toolbox. She stopped when she saw them. "Ms. Wells, this is a restricted area. Visitors aren't allowed down here, especially children." Catherine stood up straight. "I'm looking for one of your workers. A teenage boy about 15 with green eyes. I saw him in the main hall about 10 minutes ago." The woman frowned. "That sounds like Joe. Joe Miller. Is there a problem with his work?" Catherine's heart jumped at the name Joe. Her lost son had been named Joseph. "No, nothing like that. I just need to speak with him. It's important." The woman looked doubtful but tapped a small device on her wrist. "Miller, report to Section 12B. Someone here to see you." They waited in awkward silence. Dylan looked at all the pipes and buttons on the wall while Catherine tried to calm her racing heart. After a few minutes, the boy appeared at the end of the hallway. He walked toward them slowly, looking confused. Up close, the resemblance was even stronger. He had Catherine's green eyes, but his face shape was like her dead husband's. He was thin and not very tall, probably from growing up with the moon's low gravity and basic food. "You wanted to see me, Ms. Wells?" the boy asked. His voice was careful, like he thought he might be in trouble. Catherine found it hard to speak. "Your name is Joe Miller?" The boy nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I've been working maintenance here for 2 years. Before that? Where did you live before?" Joe looked even more confused. "I grew up in the Mars Orphan Center. I came here when I was 13. For the work program." "Mars Orphan Center," Catherine repeated softly. "Were you born on Mars?" Joe shrugged. "I don't know where I was born. I was found after the big accident 16 years ago. They say I was a baby, maybe 6 months old. No one knew my name or who my parents were, so they called me Joe Miller." Dylan had been quiet, but now he pointed at Joe's face. "You have eyes like me and Mom." Joe looked down at Dylan, then back at Catherine. "I guess we do have the same color eyes." He sounded uncomfortable. Catherine took a deep breath. "Joe, this might sound strange, but did anyone ever tell you about a birthmark?" Joe's eyes widened. "How did you know about my birthmark?" Catherine felt her legs go weak. "Can I see it? Please?" Joe hesitated, then turned his head and pulled back his ear slightly. There behind his right ear was a small mark shaped like a half moon. "My son had that exact same mark," Catherine whispered. "My first son, Joseph. Joseph Wells." Joe took a step back. "What are you saying?" 16 years ago, my husband Frank and our baby son Joseph were on Mars during the big accident. They told me they both died." Catherine's voice shook. "But they were wrong. You survived." The woman who had called Joe was listening with her mouth open. "Ms. Wells, are you saying Joe is your son? That's a very big claim." "We can prove it," Catherine said firmly. "A DNA test will show if he's my son." Joe looked stunned. "You think I'm your son? The son of Catherine Wells? That's crazy." Dylan tugged at Joe's sleeve. "If you're my brother, you can come live with us. We have a big house on Earth with a real yard and trees and everything." Joe looked at the small boy, then back at Catherine. Look, Ms. Wells, I think you're confused. I'm nobody. Just a worker. You're not nobody, Catherine said. And I'm not confused. I would know my son's eyes anywhere. They're exactly like my father's eyes, and his father's before him, the Wells green eyes. Joe crossed his arms. Even if I am your son, which is a big if, what does it matter now? I've been on my own for 16 years. I have my own life. A life of hard work and no family. Catherine said softly. I have friends who are like family, Joe shot back. Other orphans from Mars. We look out for each other. Catherine nodded. I understand. But wouldn't you like to know the truth? Don't you want to know who you really are? Joe was quiet for a long moment. I guess I've always wondered. Then let's find out, Catherine said. A simple test will tell us if you're my son. And if I am? Joe asked. What then? Then you'll have choices, Catherine said. I won't force you to do anything you don't want to do. But you'll know your real name, your history, your family. And me, Dylan added. You'll have me as your brother. For the first time, Joe almost smiled at Dylan's excitement. Okay, he said finally. Let's do the test. But don't get your hopes up. The chances seem pretty small. Not as small as you think, Catherine said. A mother knows her child. They walked together toward the medical bay, an unlikely group. The richest woman on the moon, her excited young son, and a teenage maintenance worker who might be her long-lost child. Behind them, whispers were already spreading through the worker levels of Moonbase 1. The story of Catherine Wells and the boy with the same green eyes was just beginning. The medical bay on Moonbase 1 was clean and bright. Dr. Susan Lee looked from Catherine to Joe with interest in her eyes. A DNA test is very simple, she explained. I just need to take a small sample from inside your cheeks. We'll have the results in about an hour. Joe sat stiffly on the exam table. He didn't look at Catherine, who stood nearby with Dylan. Will it hurt? Dylan asked, watching the doctor take out 2 small swabs. Dr. Lee smiled at him. Not at all. It just feels like a little brush inside your mouth. She took samples from both Catherine and Joe, then put them into a machine. Now we wait, she said. You can stay here or come back in an hour. I should get back to work, Joe said, standing up quickly. I've already spoken to your supervisor, Catherine said. You have the rest of the day off. Joe frowned. You can't just change my work schedule. Actually, I can. I own the company that runs this base, Catherine said. But you're right. I should have asked you first, I'm sorry. Joe looked surprised at her apology. It's fine, I guess, but I don't want to just sit around waiting. We could show you our rooms, Dylan said. We have a whole big space up on level 1. Mom has meetings here all week. Joe looked uncomfortable. I've never been to level 1. Then it's time you did, Catherine said. If you want to, that is. After a moment, Joe nodded. Okay, I guess I'm curious. They took the main elevator up to level 1. Joe looked out of place in his gray work clothes as they passed people in fancy business suits. Some people stared at them and Catherine could hear whispers. Is that Catherine Wells with a maintenance worker? Why is that boy with her? Who is he? Catherine ignored them all as they reached her private rooms. The door opened, and Joe's eyes got big. The main room was larger than the whole space he shared with 3 other workers. There were real plants, soft chairs, and a wall of windows showing the view of Earth. This is where you stay when you visit the moon? Joe asked. Yes, Catherine said. It's nice, but it's not home. Our real home is on Earth. I've never been to Earth, Joe said softly. Dylan grabbed Joe's hand. Want to see my toys? I brought my space fighters and my holo games. Joe let the younger boy pull him toward a side room. Catherine watched them go, her heart full of hope and fear. What if the test showed Joe wasn't her son? Or what if he was, but wanted nothing to do with her? Her assistant Paul came in looking worried. Ms. Wells, what's going on? There are rumors all over the base that you found your long-lost son working as a janitor. The news people are already calling for comments. Not now, Paul, Catherine said. I'll deal with the press later. But the Space Council is very upset about the canceled meeting, and the company board is calling emergency meetings. They're worried about how this will affect the stock prices. Catherine turned to him with angry eyes. My son might be alive after 16 years of thinking he was dead. Do you really think I care about stock prices right now? Paul stepped back. I'm sorry. Of course not, it's just, this is big news, Ms. Wells. I know, Catherine said more calmly. But until we have the test results, I don't want to talk to anyone. Not the press, not the board, not even the Space Council. An hour later, they all sat in tense silence in the main room. Even Dylan was quiet, feeling the importance of the moment. The comm unit on the wall beeped and Dr. Lee's face appeared on the screen. Ms. Wells, I have your results. Catherine stood up. And? The DNA match is positive. 99.99997% certainty. Joe Miller is your biological son, Joseph Wells. The room was completely silent. Joe stared at the screen, his face showing shock. I'm really your son? He said finally, his voice barely a whisper. Catherine moved toward him, tears in her eyes. Yes, you're my Joseph. My baby boy who I thought I had lost forever. Dylan jumped up and down. I told you he was my brother. Joe stood up looking confused and upset. This doesn't make sense. If I'm your son, why was I in an orphanage? Why didn't you find me? I was told you died with your father, in the Mars accident, Catherine said. They showed me records that said no one in your section survived. Someone lied, Joe said. Yes, Catherine agreed. And I want to know who and why. Joe walked to the window and looked out at Earth. My whole life has been a lie. I'm not Joe Miller, orphan boy. I'm Joseph Wells, son of the richest woman in the solar system. You're still you, Catherine said. Whatever name you want to use. Joe turned back to her. I have friends, other orphans from Mars. They're like my family. I can't just leave them. You don't have to, Catherine said. Tell me about them. Joe seemed surprised by her question. There's 5 of us who've stuck together since the orphanage. We all work here on the base now. We look out for each other. 5 other kids who survived the Mars accident? Catherine asked, her mind working quickly. That's strange. The official report said there were almost no survivors from that section. We all have the same story, Joe said. Found after the accident, no records of who we were. Catherine's face grew serious. Something is very wrong here. First you, now 5 other children, all with missing records. That's not an accident. What are you saying? Joe asked. I'm saying someone deliberately hid the fact that you children survived. Someone wanted the world to think you were dead. And I want to know why. Dylan looked from his mother to his newly discovered brother. Are the bad people who hid Joe going to be in trouble now? Catherine nodded. Yes, Dylan, big trouble, because they messed with the wrong family. Joe wasn't sure what to think. This morning he was just a maintenance worker with no past and little future. Now he was Joseph Wells, son of Catherine Wells, with a brother, a home on Earth, and a mystery about why he had been hidden away for 16 years. What happens now? He asked. Catherine looked at him with determination in her eyes. Now we find the truth. And we bring your friends into this too. If you're all survivors of the same incident, your stories are connected. For the first time, Joe felt a spark of hope. Maybe he would finally learn who he really was and why his life had turned out this way. Okay, he said. Let's find the truth. Joe led Catherine and Dylan to the lower levels of Moonbase 1. They walked through narrow hallways until they reached a small break room where 4 teenagers sat around a table. They all wore the same gray work clothes as Joe. Hey guys, Joe said. I need to talk to you about something big. A tall girl with short black hair looked up. Joe, where have you been? And why is Catherine Wells with you? Her eyes were wide with surprise. Joe took a deep breath. This is going to sound crazy, but she's my mother. My real mother. The room went completely quiet. Then all 4 teenagers started talking at once. What? Are you serious? How is that possible? Joe held up his hands. We did a DNA test, it's true. My real name is Joseph Wells. I wasn't just some random baby found after the Mars accident. I had a family, a name. A boy with red hair shook his head. That's wild, Joe, or should we call you Joseph now? Still Joe, he said firmly. I'm still me. Catherine stepped forward. Joe told me that all of you were also found after the Mars accident with no records of who you were. The teenagers looked at each other nervously. I'm Liz, said the girl, with black hair. This is Sam, Mia, and Ron, and yes, we all have the same story. Found as babies or very young children, no known parents, all from the same section of Mars base. Catherine sat down at their table. I think someone deliberately hid the fact that you all survived. The question is why? Ron, a boy with dark skin and serious eyes, spoke up. We've always wondered about that. Why would anyone care about hiding a bunch of orphan kids? Maybe we saw something, Mia suggested. She was small with light brown hair. We were all very young, but maybe we saw something we weren't supposed to see. Sam, the red-haired boy, shrugged. How could we remember? I was only 2. Catherine looked thoughtful. The Mars accident was always called a system failure. The air system stopped working and nearly 3,000 people died, including my husband Frank. But what if it wasn't an accident? Joe sat down heavily. You think someone caused it on purpose? That's a huge claim. I don't know, Catherine admitted. But I'm going to find out. And I think you 5 are an important part of the puzzle. Dylan, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. If the bad people find out you're helping my mom, could they hurt you? The 5 teenagers looked at each other. They hadn't thought of that. We should be careful, Catherine said. From now on, we keep this quiet until we know more. Too late for that, Joe said. Everyone on the base is already talking about us. Word travels fast here. As if to prove his point, Catherine's comm unit beeped. It was Paul, her assistant. Ms. Wells, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call from Earth. It's Gary Stevens, the head of the Mars Investigation Committee. He says he needs to speak with you immediately. Catherine frowned. The Mars Investigation Committee was closed 10 years ago. Why would they be calling now? He says it's about your son, Paul replied. Catherine looked at Joe. I'll take the call in private. Joe, why don't you and your friend show Dylan around? I'll meet you back at our rooms in an hour. After they left, Catherine answered the call. A serious-looking man with gray hair appeared on the screen. Ms. Wells, I'm Gary Stevens. I understand you've found your son. News travels fast, Catherine said coolly. Yes, my son Joseph is alive. He's been living as an orphan named Joe Miller. The man looked troubled. Ms. Wells, I need to warn you. There are things about the Mars accident that were kept secret for good reasons. Bringing this up now could be dangerous. Catherine felt angry. Dangerous for whom? My son was reported dead when he was alive. 5 other children were hidden away, in orphanages. I want to know why. It's complicated, Stevens said. The official report about system failure was not the whole truth. Then what is the truth? Catherine demanded. Stevens looked around as if afraid someone might hear him. We found evidence that the accident was not an accident. It was done on purpose by people from outside Earth. Outside Earth, you mean aliens? Catherine was shocked. Not exactly. They were human, but not from our solar system. We'd never seen them before. They used some kind of advanced technology to break into the Mars base and damage the air systems. We think it was a test to see how our technology worked and how we would respond. Why keep this secret? And why hide the children? The government didn't want panic, and the children, they might have seen these people. We were worried they might be targets. Catherine couldn't believe what she was hearing. So you left them in orphanages instead of trying to find their families. My son could have been with me all these years. We didn't know who they were, Stevens insisted. All records were destroyed in the attack. It was chaos. We did the best we could. Not good enough, Catherine said coldly. And now what? Are these people still a threat? We don't know. They never came back. But now that you've found your son and it's becoming public news, they might notice. You need to be careful. After the call ended, Catherine sat in silence for a long time. Then she called Paul. "I need the best security team we have," she said, "and I want the company ship ready to leave for Earth in 24 hours. "What's happening?" Paul asked, worried. "I'm taking my sons home," Catherine said, "both of them, and Joe's friends too. They'll be safer on Earth." When she told Joe about the call, he was shocked. Aliens attacked Mars base? And we might have seen them? Not aliens exactly. Humans from another star system, apparently. It sounds crazy, but it would explain why someone wanted to hide you children away. Joe looked at his friends. "We have to tell them." Liz stood up. "Tell us what?" Joe took a deep breath. "Sometimes I have this dream. It's always the same. There are people in strange clothes. They don't look like us. They're doing something to the walls of the base. Then alarms start going off. That's when I usually wake up." Mia gasped. "I have that dream too. I thought it was just a nightmare." One by one, all 5 of them admitted having similar dreams. "They're not dreams," Catherine said quietly. "They're memories. You all saw the attack, and now we're going to find out exactly what happened." Catherine's ship was the fastest private vessel in the solar system. It was big enough for all of them: Catherine, Dylan, Joe, and his 4 friends. They left Moonbase 1 in a hurry. Many people watched them go, including reporters who tried to ask questions about Joe. The 5 teenagers had never been on such a nice ship before. They walked around with wide eyes, touching the soft chairs and looking out the big windows at the stars. "We'll reach Earth in 6 hours, Catherine told them. "You'll stay at my house until we figure out what to do next." "I can't believe we're going to Earth," Mia said. "I never thought I'd see it." Joe was quiet, thinking about everything that had happened. In just one day, his whole life had changed. He had a mother, a brother, and now he was heading to Earth. "What's Earth like?" Sam asked Dylan. "It's awesome," Dylan said. "We have real trees and animals and oceans, and the sky is blue." Liz sat next to Joe. "Are you okay? This is a lot to take in." "I don't know," Joe admitted. "Yesterday I was just Joe Miller, orphan worker. Now I'm Joseph Wells, son of the richest woman in the solar system, and apparently I saw aliens when I was a baby." "Not aliens," Ron corrected. "Humans from another star system. That's what your mom said." "It still sounds crazy," Joe said. Catherine joined them. "I know this is all happening very fast, but I think it's important that we get to Earth and somewhere safe before we decide what to do next." "What about our jobs?" Mia asked. "We can't just leave forever." "Your jobs will be there if you want to go back," Catherine assured her. "But I think I can find better opportunities for all of you on Earth if you're interested." The ship's pilot called Catherine to the front. "Ms. Wells, we're being followed." Everyone crowded around the screens. A small dark ship was behind them, moving fast. "It's not a standard design," the pilot said. "I've never seen anything like it." Catherine's face went pale. "Could it be them? The people from the other star system?" "I don't know, but they're gaining on us." Joe stared at the screen. "That ship, I've seen it before." Everyone turned to look at him. "In my dreams," Joe explained. "The people who attacked the Mars base came in ships that looked like that." The other 4 teenagers nodded, in agreement. "It's them," Mia whispered. "They found us." "How fast can we go?" Catherine asked the pilot. "We're already at maximum speed. They'll catch us before we reach Earth." Catherine thought quickly. "Change course. Head for the Space Defense Station. It's closer, and they have weapons." The ship turned sharply, heading toward a large space station floating between the moon and Earth. The dark ship followed. "We need to contact the station," Catherine said. "Tell them we're being chased and need protection." The pilot tried to call the station, but something was blocking their signal. "They're jamming us," he said. The dark ship was getting closer. Everyone was scared. "I remember more now," Joe said suddenly. "About the day of the attack. I remember my father, your husband, hiding me and the others in a special room. He knew the attack was coming. Catherine stared at him. Frank knew? How could he know? I don't remember everything, Joe said. But I remember him saying something about the first contact gone wrong and that he had to protect us because we had seen them. The first contact, Catherine repeated. Earth's first contact with people from another star. It wasn't public knowledge, it was a secret. The ship shook as something hit them. They're shooting at us, the pilot shouted. Catherine made a quick decision. Emergency broadcast on all channels. Send everything we know about the attack on Mars base and these people. Send it to Earth, to Mars, to every station and ship. If they're trying to keep this a secret, let's make it public. The pilot worked quickly, broadcasting now. The dark ship fired again, hitting one of their engines. The ship slowed down. They're going to catch us, Ron said, his voice shaking. Then something unexpected happened. 3 large Earth defense ships appeared, moving toward them fast. They got our message, Catherine said with relief. Help is coming. The dark ship turned away from Catherine's ship and sped off in another direction. The defense ships followed it. We're safe for now, the pilot said. Catherine hugged Joe and Dylan close to her. I'm not losing either of you again. When they finally reached Earth, there was a big meeting with government officials. Catherine told them everything she knew about the Mars attack and the people from the other star system. The 5 teenagers shared their dreams and memories. These memories are proof, said the head of Earth Defense. We've suspected for years that the Mars accident was an attack, but we had no solid evidence. Now we do. What will happen now? Catherine asked. We'll increase our defenses, and we'll need to talk more with these young people. Their memories could be very important. Joe looked at Catherine. What about us? Me and my friends? Catherine smiled. You'll all stay with me if you want to. My home is big enough for everyone. And you can go to school, learn new skills, plan for your futures. Together? Liz asked, looking at her friends. Together, Catherine promised. You've been a family to each other all these years. I wouldn't dream of separating you. Dylan was excited. It's like I got 5 new brothers and sisters in one day. That made everyone laugh, even Joe. Later, at Catherine's big house on Earth, Joe stood outside looking at the real sky for the first time. It was blue, just like Dylan had said. The air smelled different from the recycled air he was used to. Everything was new and strange. Catherine came to stand beside him. Are you okay? I think so, Joe said. It's just a lot to take in. New planet, new life, new family. We have time, Catherine said. We have all the time in the world to get to know each other again. Joe nodded. I'd like that. Inside the house, Dylan was showing the other teenagers all his toys and games. There was laughter and talking. For the first time in his life, Joe felt like he was truly home. Thank you, he said to Catherine. For what? For not giving up. For finding me. Catherine smiled, tears in her eyes. Mothers don't give up on their children, even when everyone tells them to. Joe wasn't sure if he was ready to call her mom yet, but for the first time, he thought that someday he might.